You know, after seeing them play last weekend, I said, this Octalysis squad looks good, but good enough to go up 2-0 so far over Tempo Storm, I wasn't so sure. They did lose that one game to LFM, and there were moments with team fights. They stayed pretty even in kills, but Octalysis looks pretty good here, J-How.
Is it Tempo? Before the draft started in game one, I just hear it playing through my head over and over. You're like, I see Tempo Storm playing a traditional draft, keeping it simple. They've done anything but that in their first two drafts. So is it time to reel it back and just keep it classic?
Keep it simple, keep it safe?
Ooh.
Let's find out. Starting with the Battleground pool, Tempo has given up first pick in order to take us to Towers of Doom. This is something that Tempo Storm has been known to do now and again, here and there, it's usually after losing game one in a series, I believe, that we see Tempo Storm be willing. Yeah, they will. Oh, yeah, give it up for the map. But here they're just trying to figure something out. You know, this is a team that is constantly iterating on themselves and their strategy to try to figure out what's going to work.
It's one draft to rule them all, and they're going to try and make that happen here. So will it be around the global? One of the things that we've seen Glaurung do incredibly well, especially on this Battleground, is play Dahaka. He lands a lot of tongues. He knows when to brush stalker in, knows exactly what this team needs. We've seen some teams start to develop strategy, the early rotations down mid to try and counter stuff like that in case a global is used. But when it matters, although the other day, last week, a couple of aggressive brush stalkers in might have cost him a little bit in some of those team fights.
Yeah. It felt like the team was getting a little ahead of themselves, thinking that they took out that bot bell tower, and what was rough for them was that they took out the bell tower, then they ended up losing people, so that No Tomorrow took that right back. But I think that's one thing that No Tomorrow has proven, is that those kinds of moves, they are more than comfortable with punishing. It's the other things. It's setting themselves up for those kinds of situations more often that No Tomorrow needs to work on. But the punishment for those things, whether it's a early boss call when you've only taken out an ETC with stage dive, or it's a stock underneath a bell tower, they are willing to bring that punishment.
See if they play around. I think if he just dials back a couple of those calls last week, it's a flawless performance. And I think that's, again, something that they can play around. Octalysis, we know he's going up against Goku. We've seen Urel kind of hold points. We see Blaze. So right now, it's kind of like that trio, right, that we're going to see, I think, in the solo. But Urel and Blaze seem to be taking a little bit more priority as we move forward into this weekend. But you cannot forget about Dahaka and the global advantage that he brings on a map like this.
So much so that I wouldn't be surprised if we see the change-up of Tempo Storm banning Dahaka here, given that Octalysis have already banned Apather. Trying to keep up with the global, make sure that no team gets too much of a lead in the globals. And then that would leave both Genji and Tracer up.
Yes, that's a good point, because Genji has been a high-priority ban target towards Draded. Again, Draded coming from LFM. But when I did all the stats and we looked at everything at the end of the season, I think was top 5 or top 6 in the world in KDA on Genji, one of the most impactful heroes that we have. Chromie ban, not exactly the one that I thought, but now Genji and Tracer, as you just mentioned, are both available. Is Octalysis willing to take the Genji bait right out of the gate?
Is that we're gonna play Sergeant Hammer and now you don't have Chromie to attack us?
Well, generally we've seen Genji banned against that, so
yeah,
daring them to pick Genji. The Johanna Blaze rotation, I've liked quite a bit. You know, we saw a lot of it from Heroes Hearth. It's something that I wouldn't be too opposed to on a battleground like this. And again, Cattle loves that subdue at level 7, trying to get control. Again, even if you hit 2 heroes, you're getting value. But if he ever completes it, it's insane value. But again, the Johanna control that we've seen since we've come back from mid-season brawl has been there. Garrosh has not been there at all.
Malfurion's up, Genji's up, and that's a hard choice for Octalysis. In the end, they'll get the Genji. Ooh, this might be a chance for Buds as Rhaegar. I don't know, I know I've talked about this on broadcast before. Buds likes Rhaegar.
Yes.
He's been a Rhaegar fan for a long time, and Rhaegar combos well with Genji because sometimes you have the overlap of Divine Shield with Deflect, but here you have the Deflect up, Ancestral Heal with that, and you can heal while the Deflect is soaking up damage. Tempo Storm, though, they get Glaurung's Dahaka again, and they'll get a Phoenix.
Yeah, again, there's the delicate balance of a Genji versus Phoenix. Genji coming in with the Swift Strike directly through, strike at the heart at level 4, gets that burst damage, and then potentially going Shin Gun at 13 to get more burst damage onto that. If not, Genji has a hard time getting out against a Phoenix who might be able to warp away, return some of that damage, and we've seen a little bit of change up on builds as well, including the level 1, making sure to get extra hero damage every time you move. And so that has been something, look, if you're going to stay back here, I'm going to trade with you, and we're going to see who wins this. And it's always very close here in the competitive scene. And it seems like one's going to win out, and then the other one wins out. And it's always fun to watch that matchup.
And both of these games have gone extreme late game. And something to keep in mind with that is the Unconquered Spirit. Think about when Lockdown played versus an X-Straight Genji at the mid-season brawl. He was baiting Genjis to go in because he knew he had that. And then they'd get the kill on Genjis as long as the Lockdown to follow up. And they have Glaurung's Dahaka. They have Lockdown already, and they are sure to get more.
ETC was not something that I anticipated at this point in the game, but Malf does take away the roots option that generally has plagued stage dive people, but...
Maybe Goku.
That is true. We have seen ETC in that, and this is one where the solo lane, you're not necessarily losing the lane as hard. You don't necessarily have to win the lane, and if ETC can hold on to that, then he does give you that second take and the global pressure post level 10, so good point.
And they've taken Malfurion along with that too. So no Bud's Rhaegar, but not having to worry about the bullseye roots from a stage dive. But there's still some other things that you can pick to punish a stage diving ETC if that's the choice. Either Justing or Goku can play the hero. I think Goku's played it a couple of times in the solo lane throughout Phase 1.
You know, one thing that we've seen a little bit more prioritized since we have come back from mid-season brawl has been the Kharazim, and it's something that even June himself has busted out at times. Deckard obviously has kind of been that new meta hero that we see quite a bit of, but Kharazim is something that I do wonder if it could potentially trade out against this. Not necessarily the best against the ETC if there is a mosh pit, but if you have other options there, not too shabby.
You're all banned from Tempo Storm. Makes it seem like Justing will be the ETC player there. Octalysis, not without Chromie, will we take on this Sergeant Hammer. But it leaves Deckard Cain up, which I thought might have been the ban for Octalysis otherwise.
Yeah. See, Deckard seems likely again. You know, you can get a lot of control if ETC does slide in. You mentioned the roots. Well, where there's a big bullseye for stage dive, if that is the choice, you have a triangle that you put down within the circle, and, you know, triangles fit perfectly into circles. Nope. Nope. I don't know what blocks you were playing with.
No, I was going to say, I was just going to say, I don't know what system you were playing with. But over here, that don't fly. If not Deckard Cain, any other thoughts?
Again, we've seen low priority on Stukov. I think Stukov does have a place, especially on towers. He can deny sappers, does really well against potential ETC going in, or if you can lock down the ETC, has a hard time getting out. Doesn't have the highest health pool, just has that armor that he has to play around. We don't get armor unless you cast abilities, which does make it a tough thing to crack.
Ooh, they'll leave Caterpillars here until the end and get Greymane, who had some tweaks, some numbers tweaks, and has seen a little bit more play today, not only in North America, in Europe too.
If that is going to be a Goku ETC, I would love to see a Johanna here. Double blind, or blind against double auto attack between Greymane and Phoenix does give you a lot of control in those moments. It also works really good against Deckard. We've seen some more Lornado, but one of the things that we've seen teams do, ETC can stage dive behind, but you can also get the Condemn, the Iron Skin. You hear the wind up of that, you pop your Iron Skin, you come in with Condemn, you can cancel the Deckard. It's been one of the more common things that we've seen so far. It just depends on who's playing ETC right now.
Is this another Prismatic Gul'dan? Trying to interrupt Phoenix. Deckard King 2, just horrify anybody who comes in, really.
Well, after we saw Tychus in the early game, as you said, Tychus, Chromie, if I told you those are your two heroes, those don't exactly come to the top of the meta.
Li Ming.
It's going to be Li Ming paired with the Blaze, so ETC will be the main tank there for Justin.
Double reset, that's exciting. I remember when Prismaticism took, what did he take? He didn't take Dominance in a game where I was like, you have no right to live, and he did, and it was a BlizzCon. I think it was Triumvirate instead. And one game, he was all but dead, and I was like, how did you not take Dominance? It's like, I wasn't gonna die, I was safe.
It's fine.
So it's, in other words, it's another classic Prismat hero, but this is just a very flexible player. And it's one of the more meta heroes, meta drafts that we see from this team, and there is the final Muradin. You know, you can't nobody tosses a dwarf, but if he tosses himself and then Haymaker's back, that's okay.
Just grab him by the beard. Easy.
That is not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Malfurion would disagree.
Well, Malfurion has a pretty big beard himself. So does ETC. Is it a goatee or a beard?
I don't know.
Ugh.
It's weird to think about a giant cow with facial hair. What are you thinking about these drafts? Beards aside.
Cows have hair. Gilly. Don't discriminate.
Sorry to all the cows in the audience today.
I told you I'm from Kentucky.
It's a soft spot.
The one it scares me if I'm on the side of tempo. Double reset. Decker does not provide the burst style healing.
Yeah.
We have seen the shields on the heal at level 4. I think that's going to be necessary here. Both of the members of between Greymane and Phoenix do have potential to be blown up in this composition without a ton of protection. Dahaka does not offer a hard CC option outside of a tongue that you have to land. Muradin only temporarily. I'm kind of afraid that Genji, although he does not trade out to the pairing of Greymane and Phoenix particularly well, if he's not the opener and the initiator, he could potentially run rampant on that back line.
This is going to be a hard one for Tempo Storm. Though they do have things like, you know, Arsenal Synergy. We'll see if they end up getting Go for the Throat to chase down anybody like a Genji who starts to get low, because it's not a Genji with the Ancestral Healing we talked about, or the Divine Shield. It's just a Malfurion to defend. And we've seen Buds pick Tranquility. No Twilight Dream yet, though I know Buds is an avid Twilight Dream user, given his history with this squad. But what it looks like to me, a lot more team fighting between these two. But Tempo Storm may have the upper hand because of that global.
Yeah, I mean, I find it particularly interesting that Jaina was left out of this draft. It's kind of been that, okay, we have Phoenix, we're going to go Jaina. It definitely feels like we're trying to find that new iteration of what we're going to get from Tempo. And Fan does do really well on the Greymane last season's stats. I remember he averaged less than 1 death per game on a Greymane, or right around there, which is very low for Greymane players traditionally throughout the world. So definitely something that he knows the risk versus reward factor, but he will have his hands full against the Li Ming and Genji here, because trading into either one of those, there's normally going to be another one to follow if there's any type of setup.
Well, often when Tempo Storm drafts, traditionally, you get one very team fight focused assassin ranged, and then someone who is good at picking up camps quickly. And that is where Greymane's going to excel for this team. It's just a matter of trying to keep him alive, and if the focus is Phoenix can take care of himself, then they can make sure that Greymane is the one who is getting the potions. But part of that too just comes down to potions, and Phoenix and Greymane have a lot of mobility, which is not always easy to play with a Deckard Cain.
Well, you mentioned mobility. One of the changes for Greymane was on his level 13 talent and the swipe cooldown, I believe, but generally it's been the extra range on engage and disengage to go into Worgen form and then disengage out. So that will be something when we talk about mobility. That is a 13 talent. I don't know. I haven't seen the new Greymane. This is a new Greymane, new patch that we're looking at. We're going to see if there is any adaptation there, or whether we keep it standard at 13.
That was pretty much the one talent never taken on Greymane, Visceral Attack. So they folded it into Unfettered Assault and made both better as a result, because Unfettered Assault was taken a lot when it was first,
when
Greymane was first released, but not since then.
What about Dominance says what?
Prismaticism, dude. It's Prismat. Look here, I was wondering if this would be the case. Tempo Storm, they can bring Dahaka down to get their camp, or they can bring Greymane up to get that camp. Cattle also brought up as a means of zoning. And this is just a very camp focus. We're going to take down structures early on. We're going to control the map. It's about the altar control now. Can they do the same there?
Again, magic missiles, getting the bonus damage whenever you do hit with that, getting the auto attack in after. So we'll see how that plays out. Dahaka starting to rotate over towards his, but the real action, of course, will be down here. Blaze going to have the early rotational advantage, but Dahaka can, of course, just brush Stalker in if Blaze does rotate down. Looks like he's actually trying to get the interrupt. He does get the interrupt for now. See how long that stalemate continues.
Really cool change-up in the Deckard Kane build, but I'm going to hold off talking about that, considering the fact that we have altars on the board. Goku has delayed for quite a while, so no stalking for Dahaka as long as that's the case. He has to stay there. Fan starts the channel.
See, I think they're actually... Ooh.
He stopped that himself.
Yeah, I don't think he got interrupted there. I don't think... This is not Elun's Grace Malfurion anymore. That was at level 4, the old school, gives you extra range on your abilities. I do not think Buds was in range there.
Cattle was zoning him and Buds started to back off, but Genji was around the side, obviously trying to stay as best he could out of vision, but maybe just heads up sense that we haven't seen him for a little bit, maybe with the rotations, just wanting to make sure that he didn't get dove on from that, but I think they maybe could have turned around with a Storm Bolt and put some damage back toward him.
How about those potions?
A little pyramid.
Well, one thing that we're actually going to see happen now is that Dahaka will clear the top if this even comes to it, as we get the stun. Never mind. Cattle eating a lot of damage. Nice scroll going down. Here comes the Dahaka brush stalker in. See if we get any type of disrupt. Dark Swarm going to get the interrupt just in time.
He has to burrow. We'll start healing back up. But look at the damage Octalysis can do. Nature's Curry used from that drag. Tempo Storm bruised after that last engagement. Backs off for the moment. Octalysis will claim this altar. And what I was looking at was the Ruby, which we saw used to great effect. There are little potions all around that altar. But when you have a team that wants to dive forward, you can drop that down and give them those extra potions from that. And with the Greymane, it's possible, but with the Muradin and Dahaka too, trying to be more of the healer that otherwise might struggle with versus the double reset, J-How.
Well, the minute Blaze showed that he was rotating up, Tempo Storm confidently walked in knowing that Dahaka had done work. That's why we see a small XP advantage. Dahaka had done work up in the top, and this is something that you can do. A good response here is to just basically aggro the sappers. They never rotate around and just keep them in place, so that's going to be cleaned up, but you do lose control of that if you're on the side of Octalysis. But again, Dahaka making that rotation to the top when Blaze was mid, ended up being forced to come down when Dahaka came down. Therefore, small experience advantage over to Tempo.
Tempo have put a lot of focus in the sappers, which we noticed earlier, and Cattle Dwarf tosses away, starts to heal back up. Should Tempo be able to get some of these structures down, and it'll be hard for Octalysis to gain them back. Octalysis is a team fighting composition for sure, with a Li Ming and a Genji. They're looking for the resets in the fights. So Tempo Storm using that Greymane to its full effect.
With level 10 so close here, nice stun there. I was going to say, if we get the follow-up, that might have been a kill, but just out of range. I would be really surprised if Octalysis channels this, or challenges it, I should say. The other thing is, as much as we saw the Playmaker earlier, I got a feeling this is going to be an Avatar game, Gilly.
I gotta agree. Something tells me he's gonna want help versus a double reset composition. Can't put my finger on it.
The first to lock in. He's like, all right, I'm done.
Still has Perfect Storm though. Between Avatar and Healing Static, we'll have a great deal of survivability versus those double resets. Maybe be less of a target like we saw earlier where Team Octalysis nearly claimed a kill on him. No kills 7 minutes into this game as both teams hit heroic abilities.
Camp picked up just in time before Cattle and team get there. There's going to be a stun going down. Cattle continuing to stack up, sitting at 17 stacks on the baseline and the level 1 quest. No kills after those, so.
Justing's holding his heroic ability.
You got your Twilight. No tranquility this game.
Ooh. Setting up for the resets. All in is Octalysis. But also, knowing that with the Greymane, it makes things trickier for Fan, though with Fan having his increased human auto attack range at 7, he's a lot more of the backliner. Gonna pick and choose when he wants to go in with the Dark Flight. Hasn't chosen if he's gonna go for the Throat or Cursed Bullet for more damage on maybe that ETC or the Blaze, especially if Bunker's down already.
Well, Deckard holding his. Both of his heroics cancel Mosh Pit, so Lornado is going to be the choice.
Right, it's a lower cooldown.
Very short.
Way lower cooldown.
but Greymane still holding his. It feels like go for the throat is a reasonable option, but Cursed Bullet getting some frontline damage onto something like an ATC to rip through the potential armor. It just, go for the throat seems, I guess, greater potential in this composition. You
have Lornado so that you always make sure you have an interrupt. And then if you take Cursed Bullet, then you might force ETC to put a mosh pit where he doesn't want to, a less non-copacetic one because of the sheer amount of upfront damage they can put on Justing. He power slid in too. Fan has to back off. He took go for the throat.
All 5. I think they could have lived through that. See if it ends up coming to bite them. Mosh pit outside of it. I don't think that's where he wanted. He's still dancing.
Drag to Priz root there. Prismaticism combo down. Twilight Dream will hit Glowering, but he's gotten a lot of the heal back up. Caterpillar was hit by that too as he is dancing around, throwing out a Storm Bolt.
A lot of fireworks and not a lot of action there.
Goku's peeling out.
Yeah, you could even hear it. Well, slight experience lead, but core health lead definitely on the side of Tempo Storm. Go for the throat, of course, was locked in, but those are big heroics between Mosh Pit and Twilight Dream that were used. I think last time we saw this rotation, we're going to see Draded. This is super dangerous for him. That Nature's Cure was forced. I didn't think it... That's a situation you can probably avoid, but Nature's Cure, short enough cooldown, it's going to be okay.
Worth it not to lose Genji there. Even though a lot of the chain CC had already happened. Maybe fearful since the deflect was about to end too. 13 here for Tempo Storm as they get those talents. Hey, there it is! Unfettered Assault. Razor Swipe, lunge, distance. It's all mobility options for Greymane at 13, and so that was the original Unfettered Assault. Now, Worgen basic attacks produce Razor Swipe's cooldown by 1.5 seconds. So once he goes into Worgen form, expect to see this dog diving all over Octalysis.
Yeah, a lot of swipes going through there, which can lead to pretty significant damage as long as he's kept alive. And as you said, the Ruby picked up at level 4 does give you that dive capability. It's like, here's a bunch of mini heals as well, trying to keep them alive. Either way, double alter phase. Dahaka should be able to trade out on that top bell tower. I believe that was picked up in time, yeah. So only a couple shots are going to go out comparatively. Nice tornado directly into the drag. Here we go, Goku and team. They're looking for the engage, but he's in trouble. There's a mosh pit.
Mosh gets 2. Purification Salvo is going to hit off the side of that, but 1 is the only kill. They get the second, but ETC goes down. The Purification Salvo actually did a lot to soften up Octalysis. Goku dove back into the fight, and he goes down too now. Genji's been brought down. Tempo Storm are turning this.
2 for 3 trades so far. Prismat trying to put damage out, and that could have teetered. Finn almost had to go for the throat reset as the orb hits there on Devin. Prismat going to try and do his best. He is out of mana. Not enough to buy time for Buds.
You got the Innervate.
Yeah, but here comes Greymane. Greymane is looking for this.
Vin's there too. They'll back off from the channeling. ETC's back.
Ooh, we're about to have the portal.
Briz can hit this.
Dahaka's going to brush Stalker in.
16's almost here for Tempo Storm. Cattle spots Prismaticism, who teleported over the wall. Cattle follow right along with him.
Power slide in, but once you go in, can you make it out? Justin Lornado not able to get him in, just unable. There's going to be a burrow under. Glaurung using his essence as well. Cattle comes in. Avatar forced to be used. Here comes the scroll, trying to lock multiple down. It does. Bunker used. Cattle healing static, keeping him alive. He's going to get out just in the nick of time.
Healing static, he went into Avatar too. Now we could start the channel back up. Now the Shuriken have missed, so he keeps going with his self-heal, and Tempo Storm is quickly approaching 16. They put Fan in the mid so that he can pick up some more of the experience. Octalysis deals with the Sappers in the bottom, but 16 is almost here. Does Octalysis stick around for this? 12 seconds until a mosh pit.
Yeah, I don't know if they're getting really to afford this. Lornado used again. That gives an opportunity. If mosh pit comes up, it's still 5 seconds out. Justin getting bodied around though. Lornado, significant value. Buds goes in for the Twilight Dream. He has no more mana. Ice block is going to keep him from being hit by Salvo, but there's no way he's going to make it out of here. Is it Fan? He's going to get one reset. Can they get onto Prismat? Does Cattle have the hammer? He does. Got him.
Knocks him out, takes him down. 33 seconds until Li Ming is back. Octalysis were willing to fight against the 16, feeling the pressure of wanting to get these double resets going, but the Lornado split that team apart. Even without a Cursed Bullet, Tempo Storm kept control of Justing long enough to take him down, and then from there, didn't allow Octalysis to back out. And here is the big problem.
Regaining control. You mentioned it earlier, and I think they're going to have a very tough time being zoned out here. Justin is going to get rooted. Lornado's going to push him back, going to make room for the Sappers. 3 more shots. So what was a pretty even game, it was 29 to 28 moments ago. Tempo Storm quickly escalating this.
That was a strange storm front we just hit. I don't know what word I was looking for there.
It's a strange heat front here in California, I found out today. We go from 70 to 105 today, Gilly. What is the state?
Warm is what it is. Team Octalysis had a lot of lane pressure against them because of all the sappers that Tempo Storm have been able to acquire throughout this game. They took back one of the bell towers, but I don't think Tempo Storm is like to let this bottom go anytime soon. Fighting underneath that, trying to get the sappers behind it so they can escort more in. And guess what? Lornado's back up to try to do the same zoning trick that June showed us with the last sappers.
It's just so incredibly difficult to siege up. I mean, this is Exhibit A, B, C, and D. Everything you need to know about why it's so important to take this bot lane. Triple altar phase coming up. Only 2 bell towers on the side of Octalysis, which means only 3 shots per channel. And as long as Tempo can hold this, there's a power slide in. There's going to be the Ruby. Fan somehow survives. For now, the Ruby popped out as well, keeping them alive. Goku comes down to join the fight. 10 seconds until the altars are active. And Dahaka already looking in position to try and capitalize on that top lane.
Yeah, Tempo Storm kept Octalysis in position here. Dahaka's going to move back. He doesn't want to get caught, and all the control, or all of the map is in favor of Tempo Storm here, so they really don't need to be aggressive. Drayded's going to stall Dahaka over to the left, while Malfurion starts the channel. Octalysis, now we're looking for a fight, not only because they're falling behind in core health, but they need something to get back in this game because they're falling behind in experience too.
If you can't fight bottom, take the fight to them in the top, and it looks like they're going to do just that. There's going to be a 2-man mosh pit. Scroll going to be there. The Lornado enough for an interrupt. Justin getting bodied right now as the salvo comes out. That's going to be kill number 1. In comes the hammer. Buds, he's going to be kill number 2 momentarily. Ice block is nice. His Twilight Dream is going to go down, but is it going to be worth anything? I don't think so.
Octalysis has been going in for these aggressive fights, and the second Lornado goes down, the team gets way too split apart. Bunker. Octalysis has Bunker. Couldn't save either ETC or Malfurion because after that, because Bud steps out trying to get a Twilight Dream to set up the 2 double reset heroes. I'm just wondering if maybe what the changeup needs to be for them in these fights because it's just not working for them in this late game.
Well, trying to regain control is Octalysis here in the bot lane. Starting to pepper away, but not enough. Traded just barely dodging that elongated tongue at 16 picked up. But with 20 on the horizon, double altar phase, only 1 altar remains for Tempo Storm to send us to a game number 4 and find their way back into this.
I enjoy the Alpha Killer pick, as Justin has already had his hands full with Tempo Storm's composition. They're going after Glaurung. He has Essence. Longer he can try to stay alive, the better. Bunker force from that damage. Blaze just falls to the sheer damage that Tempo Storm has with the Purification Salvo. They take down more.
This seems like all she wrote is 30 seconds out. No ETC or Blaze. It's going to take a miracle for Octalysis to be in this game because it's not just 1 altar, Gilly. There's also a sapper camp that's going to be picked up here in the bottom left. So basically, if you're expecting an Octalysis comeback, I'm going to tell you to wait for next game because Tempo Storm, I believe, is about to put a 1 next to their name here in game number 3.
Yeah, if ever there was a checkmate situation, this would look like it. Though Octalysis takes back the bell tower in the bottom lane. Drayded gets dragged. Drayded gets killed.
Yeah, okay.
And there's the channel.
Yeah, the bottom bell tower, so forgive the sappers, it doesn't matter. Tempo Storm coming out, bringing the fight to him in this much more traditional style composition here And I think I like this a little bit more. They brought the fire. They brought a lot more to this. The ETC, however, did struggle pretty heavily. Again, Justin, wide variety of heroes, continuing to reinvent their drafts every single game. I think this time might have been countered just a little bit. And Lornado, nice pickup as well.
It was. And I don't know how many people are experimenting with Lornado. June seems to be the only one that we've seen actually bring it to life, although you can guess that everyone will try out all facets of a new hero, but that seemed especially problematic for Team Octalysis because it was not only that ETC was then shoved away from the rest of the team, they could deal with him, but then the rest of the team tried to come to help him, and then Buds would be in a weird spot. He'd get killed next. The damage seemed to not be lacking at all with a Greymane and a Phoenix. I think we all maybe forgot how much damage a good Greymane could do because they were putting it in. But I also think just really good lane setups with that Greymane too, that they knew that it would be hard to take back bell towers, and they exploited that.
Yeah, you brought an excellent point up in the early part of that game. That early rotation to the bottom left is when you first called it, but then the rotation top. And I think that was one of those things where we started to see control on when Tahaka, when it was that first altar in the triple phase that won in the mid, and you could see starting to see an experience advantage. And once they got the top, then they were able to get the bottom, and there was so much focus to reclaim the top and then trying to get the bottom. It's just, it took way too long to regain control. And I think that's actually a key point. And if you look at the long story of the game, that was a moment, a big turning point for that did have long-term impacts. And that's what Tempo does better than basically any team in North America is they're not thinking about now, they're not thinking about 2 minutes from now, they're thinking about the full spectrum from beginning to end. And I think that was a big play for them and a very well executed strategy.
Well, Tempo Storm's not only attempting a reverse sweep to win this series, they're trying to win your hearts as we take a look at the NA leaderboard for HGC Cheer, just sitting a little bit behind